Alright, so we are going to explore the second object card, and we're going to apply it to a social issue that a lot of us are affected by in this country, right? And so let's consider an innovation tool. And so we have many object cards that we can use, and we are going to use the torch for this example. We are going to deal with the issue of lack of free sanitary towels in primary schools in Mobile, okay? So there's an issue with free sanitary towels in a primary school somewhere in Mobile, right? We are going to use this object card to understand the problem a lot better, okay? The object cards help us to unpack these problems, as we were doing in our first example. So now I'm going to ask you, as my participants, to feed into our understanding of this issue using this card. Okay. What do you come up with when you look at this particular object and our social issue? Yeah.
Cool. So when I look at the torch, first of all, it's very small. And so when you switch it on, the light is very focused on a particular object and it leaves out the rest of the room, which means you can't see the rest of the problem. So like the problem of lack of free sanitary towels, people are thinking it's a very small problem, but it's actually quite big, because if a child misses school because of periods, that affects their grades, that affects them dropping out and not actually passing and succeeding in their life after. And so it means that we're not taking it seriously enough, and we're thinking it's a very small problem, but actually can affect the rest of their lives.
Great, that's fantastic. Okay. What are other thoughts if you look at the subject?
Also, the torch itself is handheld, meaning which it is dependent on someone holding it to actually shine the light on a particular dark place, right? Meaning that the people, in my view, who hold the purse strings, or people who might have the money to buy these sanitary towels and so forth, are dependent on knowing how many girls are actually affected with the whole issue of needing sanitary towels. So if the person who is the gatekeeper for the funds, like a municipal person, the councillor, is unaware of how many girls in Ingobo need sanitary towels, then therefore those sanitary towels cannot be either manufactured or dispatched to that particular environment.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Thank you. The other problem is that this flashlight or torch needs batteries to operate. So we cannot get into that space without having, plug in the batteries. That will be now lack of political leadership or political power in this instance. So we need people who will understand this thing and provide leadership politically.
Okay. So you're saying the batteries is the kind of power and leadership that we need.
Yes.
So as it gives light and power when you have the batteries in, we also need political will to give power to the situation of sanitary towels in Mobile, right? Yeah. Some other thoughts, Karen?
So I just wanted to add to the issue of the battery, right? So for example, young women who don't have access to sanitary towels end up using other things to substitute the sanitary towel itself, and those might be unsanitary types of things, such as toilet paper, whatever the case may be, which is also essentially a health issue. Much like the torch, if you don't have the light bulb, or if you don't have the batteries, if you start substituting that with other things, the torch won't work.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Also, in terms of batteries, you need the right sizes, or a combination of right sizes. Now, if you do not understand what type of battery you need for your torch, it won't work. Like the ratio between males and females in South Africa. The females are more than males, but we're giving males free condoms, which are a minority, but we do not give females free sanitary towels, which is not the right fit for the torch.
Great.
Oh yeah. So that the light needs to be sustained in order for the torch to maintain its functions. So the best way to sustain is by having like good power, So you can't really have you can't really rely on making the whole right to sanitary towel like a permanent, infinite thing without actually thinking about how you can actually create jobs to actually make the people who need the towels to actually afford it themselves. In fact, to actually afford not just the ones which the government will be providing, which are sometimes very mediocre, as the government really does, but like to actually provide ones which can suit them, which are very qualitative, you know.
Yeah. So we have to be a lot more innovative in terms of what we're offering and check the sustainability of that. So it's not just about what are we offering. The underlying issue there is it something that people can use, afford, and is it sustainable? Right? Great. I'm hearing those concerns there. I'm going to take the last two hands before we wrap this up. So Casca, and then we'll more
In order for you to ensure that your torch is working all the time, you need to keep on checking the batteries, because sometimes you might have the battery on, but they are not in good working condition. So you need that person who will check the batteries all the time. Now in this case, are we as people keeping our government accountable, the powers that be accountable? Because I know that in Polokwane there was a resolution that they should give, the ANC conference in Polokwane. One of the resolutions was that they would give free sanitary towels. But are we, as the people keeping them accountable, are we checking that our batteries, are in good working condition?
Great, thank you for that. It's very powerful. Yes,
Okay, lastly, I'd just like to say the torch itself is subject to wear and tear, right? Meaning that if it could drop, then that's it. You could still have the batteries and you could still have maybe the bulb and whatnot, but if it's broken, then it can't work. Meaning which the sanitary towels that are provided in some remote areas are not, they are disposable, but they're not reusable. Yeah, well, so if one sanitary towel, if you get maybe 10 sanitary towels per month and you have 14 days of going to your periods, you cannot reuse those sanitary towels, which means then therefore you're still facing shortage and lack.
Yeah. Great, thank you. And so, as you can see, we've drawn very strong relations to very real problems in our communities, right? We've taken a torch, which is an object, an art object. We've kind of understood what its functions are, its components, and we rated it very clearly to our problem, right? So we do not feed into our own biases of how we perceive things, but we're using something external that kind of jogs our thinking so that we are able to think about new ways of how we can understand the problem, right? So thank you very much for your inputs. To our audience out there, we also have the object, we can also use the object cards as a solution, as I was telling you earlier on. So the card can be used in the very same way. If we have understood all of the underlying issues with the problem, we can identify one of those underlying issues, and then we can apply an object card to say, how would we solve this particular problem? And so what we're doing today is kind of showing you a very simple, easy way of using an object and linking to problems that would ignite new kind of thinking around solving or understanding specific issues in communities. And I hope you enjoy, and please comment below. Please give it some feedback. Please tell us if this was useful to you or not, or how this could be meaningful in other ways. Thank you very much.